So today we're going to find the volume of composite figures. So that's when we take known shapes or known solids, and then we'll figure out the volume of irregular shapes. Usually, if it's usually used in architecture or when you're constructing things and you want to figure out how much space that item takes up. So for example, here we want to, they show us an example A, where we find the volume of two solids. Looks like that's a triangular prism and a rectangular prism. And as you can see, we have to know the formulas for each, for the rectangular prism and for the triangular prism. We have to know how to locate the right dimensions, the right numbers, find the volumes, and in the end, we get the total volume by adding them up. So that's what we're going to do. So let's just jump right into our first example that we're going to do. Okay? So if you're ready, we'll go to example number 1. Here we go. So we have two different solids. All right. So let's figure out what these solids are. So on the bottom, we have this solid. It's a prism because the other possibility is a pyramid. In a pyramid, everything usually connects to one point that we call a vertex. So that's not happening with this prism. What kind of prism is this? Rectangular or triangular? The bottom one. That's rectangular. And it's important to know the names because that should be a clue as to what formula we have to use. You really got to get into the habit of knowing the formulas. So we have that shape, and let's get this other solid. I'm gonna draw an arrow up here because I'm gonna need some room. It's also a prism, but this isn't a rectangular prism, it's a triangular. Triangular prism. So we're going to do a little work on each one. Want to start with the easy one or the hard one? Easy, always. Because the easy one's going to help us make the harder one easier, actually. All right, so let's start with a rectangular prism. That's the easy one. Let's look at the base. The base is the bottom. And it's a rectangle, right? Now, to find the volume, if you'll recall, the volume is base area times height. So let's find this base area. And it's a rectangle. So what do we have to do to find if the dimensions are 16 by 5 for this rectangle? What do I do to find the area? What do I do with the length and the width to find the area of a rectangle? Multiplying. So we're going to multiply 16 by 5. And then we got to multiply that times the height. And what's the height of this prism, this rectangular prism? 4. So let's all do that. We all have calculators, right? It's calculator time. 16 times 5 times 4. Let's figure out what that is. $320. And since we're talking about meters and volume, this is 320 cubic meters. There, we just found this volume. Now the cool thing is, if you notice, the bottom rectangle here, isn't that the same for this triangular prism? Isn't that the same? So we want to find the volume for this triangular prism. Let's talk about the formula for that. Volume, V equals 1/2 the base times the height. Anytime they give us triangular, that's why we should know the terms. We have to multiply by a half. Because triangles, it's half of a rectangle. All right, so let's figure out this one. We want 1/2. So since we're using a calculator, we won't do 1/2. We'll do 0.5. And then we want to multiply that times the base. What did we multiply for the base since they're identical? 16 times 5, because that's what we have here, 16 by 5. It's the same dimensions here and here. Okay, 16 times 5. And then we have to multiply that times the height. What's the height for this triangle? Which number represents the height? The 6. We're always looking for this right angle. So it's going to be times 6. So let's figure out that. 0.5 times 16 times 5 times 6. Let's see what that gives us. What are we going to get? 240. Anybody else get 240? Okay, I'm seeing some people shake their heads. 240, and that's cubic millimeters again, or cubic meters. So here are the two volumes, 240 and 320. Now to get the total volume, everything all put together, got to add this up. You have to add this up. Okay. Okay. So let's get the total volume. I'm going to write that down here. Total volume. And that's going to be 240 cubic meters plus 320. How much is that going to give us? Let's see. 560. What are the units here? They're the same. They're still cubic meters. So this is the volume for this whole thing. Is that a big, what's the size? Do you have any idea what the size is if we're talking about 560 cubic meters? Well, let's go back to thinking what a meter is. A meter, remember my arm span is shorter than a meter by that much. So you have so to my arm span, you have to add this much more. And that's 1 meter. Now to make a cubic meter, imagine you had a cube where each side was that big, that long. That's a big cube. But we're not talking about one of those. We're talking about 560 of those cubes, that size. So that's the size that we're talking about when we say 560 cubic meters. Well, that's pretty big. Okay, that's a substantial size. All right. Any questions? We'll do one more in the notes, and then we'll pass out the assignment and then do a few there. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next one on the other page. You ready? The next one has a pyramid. We have a pyramid on top. How can we tell it's a pyramid? What makes this top solid a pyramid, guys? Yeah, it all kind of goes to one point. Do you notice? Like our pyramids here. They all have this point at the top that we call a vertex. So that's what makes it a pyramid. Um, and so that's a different formula. We did that, what was it, on Monday? All right, so let's go ahead and do this. So we have a pyramid. It's not just a pyramid, it's a rectangular pyramid because the base is a rectangle. So let's write that down, rectangular pyramid. And what's the shape on the bottom? What's that solid? Rectangular prism. Okay, so we have rectangular pyramid on top and rectangular prism on the bottom. Probably some sort of a building. This time we're dealing in feet. So same as before, the formulas are um, volume for a rectangular prism is base area times height. Okay, so here's our base. Whenever we hear the word base, think bottom. What's the bottom looking like on a prism? They're always going to be the same on the top and bottom. Yeah, it's 20 times 10. All right, so let's use that. So this is going to be 20 times 10. And then we got to multiply by the height. What's my height? 10. So let's figure that out. Calculator time. Or you can just say, okay, it's 20 times 10. That's 200. 200 times 10 is 2,000. Well, yeah, 200 times 10 will give us the 2,000. And we're measuring in feet, so this is 2,000 cubic feet. Okay? So there is one volume for the rectangular prism. That should be the bigger one, I think. Now, let's talk about pyramids. You guys ready? A pyramid. Well, first the formula. Remember how we did this? We want the base area times the height, and then we're going to divide by 3. Write that down. Base area times height, divide by 3. So let's figure this out. We got a little lucky here, guys. We're going to transfer that base over again. It's going to be the same on the top and bottom. So what do I have to multiply to get this base? 20 and 10. It's the same. It's 20 by 10 again. Just to remind you, this transfers over. It's still 20. And this is 10. So you can transfer those over here. So we're going to do 20 times 10. And then we want the height for the pyramid. And this is what we're going to look at. What's my height here? 6. And then don't forget the end. Since it's a pyramid, we have to divide by 3. Okay. Divide by 3. So let's do that. Multiply 20 times 10 times 6, and then divide by 3. 400. Wow, that was quick. That's even better. 400 cubic feet. Okay. So now let's find that total area. Total volume. So for the total volume, we're going to do the 400 cubic feet plus 2,000 cubic feet, and that should be 2,400 cubic feet. Um, huh. How big is a cubic foot? A foot's about this much, right? More or less 12 inches. Can you picture a box like that size? So how many of those boxes do we need? 2,400. Okay, that's pretty decent. Maybe it's a shed or something, somewhere to store stuff. Um, my parents, they live in El Paso, and my dad built his own shed. He calls it la casita, and it looks like a little house in the backyard, and it's about that size probably. All right, so this is what we're going to be doing, guys. Okay, so this is the assignment, volume of composite figures, and we're going to work on a few of these together. Um, so it's the same process. We're going to break this up into our two shapes. We have a triangular prism and a rectangular prism at the bottom. All right, and let's start with the easy one again, rectangular prism. So for the rectangular prism, it's base area times height. And so for the base area, that's the bottom. That's this right here. So we have to multiply for the base 12 times 5. Okay, that's the bottom. Now I need the height. What do I multiply for the height? 5. Also 5 then. It's right there. So there it is. It's going to be 12 times 5. That's 60. And 60 times 5 is 300, I believe. So that's going to be 300 cubic feet. All right. Let's talk about this prism. Now the triangular prism volume is, anytime it's triangular, remember, it's 1/2 base times height. So let's see, instead of 1/2 that way, I'll write it in decimal form. And then we have to multiply that times the base, but the base is the same. The base is the same as there. So what numbers do I multiply to get the base for this triangular prism? What did I multiply for the rectangular prism? 12 and 5. And then I got to multiply that times the height of this triangular prism. There it is. Okay. So I got to multiply 0.5 times 12 times 5 times 2. What's that going to give me? What's 0.5 times 12 times 5 times 2? You got calculators, right? Give it a try. 60. And that's cubic feet as well. So now we just add those together. And that's 360 cubic feet. 360 cubic feet. Okay. So that is going to be the same process that you're going to do for number 2. I want you to try number 2 on your own. Okay. Okay, so we were just saying to find number 2, you would multiply your base and your height, your length and your width to get the base area, and then multiply that times the height, and then that would give you the rectangular prism, and then you transfer that 11 and 8 since it's a rectangle, they're the same for the triangular prism. You would multiply those times 3, and then remember, since it's triangular, it's 0.5. Okay, and that's how you would get the volume for the triangular prism, and then you add it all up in the end. Okay, so for number 3, our composite figures are 2 cubes, a big cube and a small cube. How do I find the volume of, well, let's start with a big cube. It's really just a prism, a rectangular prism. So if I know all 3 dimensions, what do I do with these 3 dimensions? Multiply. Same thing with the small cube. And then in the end, you would just add those together. Check my math. Is that correct? 224? Oh, sorry. I'm going to help you out, give you some hints for number 4. So for number 4, we have a rectangular prism. And a triangular prism. Okay, so that's telling us, for this one, we just multiply the 3 dimensions they give us. 2 by 6 by 3, or 3 by 6, 3 times 6 times 2. So that gives us the rectangular prism. For the triangular prism, well, they both share 2, right? So it's 2 times 10 times whatever this is. How much is that? I don't know that length. But look at the other end. It's 3, right? It's 3 here, and it's identical here, so this is also 3. You got to get comfortable transferring those units. So to find the triangular prism, you would multiply. Remember, it's triangular, so do I have to use 0.5? Yep, I sure do. So 0.5 times 2 times 10 times 3, that would give us this volume. And then you add them together. Okay. So I just mentioned that for number 6, it's a cube with a pyramid on top. And since it is a pyramid, we have to use the formula for the pyramid, rectangular pyramid, base times height divided by 3. And the bases are equal, so if the base is 13 by 13 at the bottom, the base for the pyramid is 13 by 13. And the height looks to be also 13. So, okay. Let's talk about this one. So we have a rectangular prism and a rectangular pyramid. And here's the thing with a pyramid. They give us this length 5, right? This is for the pyramid. They don't give us this length. We need this length. How long is this part here, from here to here? 4. Again, you transfer it. If it's 4 here, it's going to be 4 here. So make a note there that this has 4. So to find the volume for this pyramid, it's 5 times 4 times 4 for the height, and then divided by 3. Okay? And make sure you keep that in mind. And for the last one, we got 2 pyramids, making this kind of diamond shape, odd-looking diamond shape. But they share the same base. That square there is a base, and I know it's a square because each side is 3. It's 3 by 3. So the area for that square is 3 times 3, or 9. And then you have a height of 4 for the smaller one, and for the longer one, it's a height of 9. And remember, divide by 3. Always divide by 3 on the pyramids. So this formula, base times height divided by base area times height divided by 3, works for this pyramid, and these 2 pyramids.